We're the ones that determine that. We're the ones that determine that, what that means to us in our life, and we got to find out about that when we're talking to, these individual prospects and whatnot. You want to make sure that you ask the right questions. And so when you have a system, as a part of that system, what I'd like to do is kind of jump into it, is talk to you after I ask those questions and I'm building that rapport, as we stated in the last course. I built that rapport. I'm starting to build a friendship here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use a three-way system. If you don't have three-way phone calling on your phone right now, call the company, the phone company, and get them to set it up. It's only a couple dollars a month. You've got to have it. It's absolutely imperative tool that you've got to have. When you're building this business, most people do anyways. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to three-way your prospects into an automated call. You want to put somebody in on an automated call, and part of that is set up that voicemail system. Sometimes your leadership already has that set up. Maybe you are the leader, Maybe you're listening to this and you say, man, I've got to go do that. I've got to go get that set up. There's a lot of voicemail companies that are out there. You can actually check with Cutting Edge Media if you don't know of one, and they're obviously a great resource for that as well. But, part of the process is you're going to want to have options within that voicemail system, and one Mike really touched on. The first one, you can press 1 for opportunity overview. And part of that is going to be testimonials. That's where the psychological energy, that's where the stories come in, that's where the emotions come in. You hear stories from people and individuals that are from every walks of life, every background, every race, every education level, every religion, whatever it might be. You hear those types of stories and those success stories or testimonials. Maybe you press 2 for the product or service overview. You have some testimonials attached to that. If you're in the weight loss industry, somebody lost a lot of weight. Maybe you're in the nutritional industry. Maybe you're in a service-related industry. Whatever it might be, utilize the testimonials of how the product bettered, help that person become better or help them out in a certain situation, and they're very thankful for that. Remember, stories do sell, as Mike said, and it is all based on psychological energy, and I totally agree with you when you say that. Now, that's part of the first process. When you're asking the questions, you want to turn around and three-way them into an automated call and utilize and leverage the tools. That's where the duplication comes in, because you don't want to necessarily know all this information right away. You want to be able to duplicate quickly. The very, very first person that gets into the business to the most experienced one in that particular company or in the industry should be using the same system, because it's all about duplication. And that's why we want to utilize the three-way calls, because they're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All they really are is outgoing greetings and promotionals that you set up with the system. So make sure that you have that voicemail system, because everybody's got a phone, okay? Now, secondarily, you want to join any live opportunity calls or leadership calls that your company might be doing, or maybe somebody in your upline is doing. They have regularly scheduled Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night, whatever it might be, leadership calls that you want to plug into, or recruiting conference calls that you want to make sure that you're plugging into as well. Why? Because it creates that energy. Again, it's about the emotion. It's about that energy. A lot of times what you do is when you open up the calls, you'll say, okay, who's on the call? And you'll hear Alan from Detroit, Michigan. You'll hear, Joe from Tampa, Florida. You'll hear Mike from Atlanta, Georgia. You'll hear somebody from California, and it goes across the board. Some Canadian, our friends in Canada. The bottom line is it's so fun when that starts to occur, and then most of the time the leadership will lock down the call, they'll mute everything out, and they'll get right into the subject matter that they want to cover that evening. So you want to make sure that you actually three-way your prospects. Once you've got them through and you've done those types of things, you want to three-way them into the leadership calls. Now, here's 2 questions that I ask at the end of both of these. Now, after I've three-wayed them into the 15-minute message or the 10-minute or the 5-minute message, whatever it is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang up, I'm going to click off, I'm going to click back to them, I'm going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, did that catch your attention? That's always a good question. And number 2, what did you like best about what you heard? That's vitally important that you ask, what did you like best? Because it's not an open-ended question. It's a positive, it really dictates a positive answer from that. You're not going to say, what'd you think? Because you don't know the answer to that. What you do know is you say, what'd you like best about what you heard? It's a positive question. And I do the same thing after I've three-wayed them into a live leadership call that my upline or my company does. Now, I know I do a lot of conference calls. Mike, you do a lot of conference calls, and most leaders do, because you want to be able to communicate not only with your sales force, but you want to help them bring new prospects into your particular organization. Now, another thing, because everybody has a phone, that's why I'm really big on that, because everybody does have a phone nowadays. The second thing that I like to do is send them over to my company-based website. Sometimes your leadership team has websites set up. Sometimes your companies have them set up. They have these little flashpoint presentations that are on board with that. There's a lot of generic sites out there that can do that as well. But what you really want to do is talk about your particular company because you're passionate about that company, and you want to three-way them in, actually send them over to your website and have them review that website and really take a good look at it. And then what I also do is I at the end of all of this, I've already put them through 2 or 3 different exposures at this point. What I like to do now is actually three-way call with my upline. Now Mike and I both, I don't know that we know how to recruit people. Okay, we're 6-figure guys, multiple 6-figure guys. We've done well in the industry. We love it. But the bottom line is we could bring people in, and we do bring people in that without any help. We don't need the help is what my point is. But the reason why that we three-way somebody into our upline or another associate, a workout partner, somebody that you're working with, I would highly encourage you to find somebody that you can kind of run with, kind of build your business with, that you can do three-way calls with, because all of a sudden it's a duplication factor. You bring somebody else's story in, they bring their emotions in, they tell their success, they tell you what their goals are. It makes people want to become a part of the team. It's easier to recruit to a team than it is to a particular company sometimes because it just makes more sense. People want to feel like they're a part of something, okay? And that's vitally important. A three-way